Hi friends, welcome back to 3 Barrow Farm and to week 4 of the Pantry and Freezer Challenge I'm currently undertaking. It has been once again a very rainy week, so I've been doing lots of cooking inside. And on the first day we still had the fire going, so I made porridge. And of course, I had my smoothie as well, which I have every morning, my green smoothie. And for lunch, I defrosted this eggplant dish that I put into 1 serving portions. So that's all gone now. There were 2 containers worth, and I have crossed it off this list that I made at the start of the challenge. I had it with tuna for lunch and it was delicious. There was some leftover porridge, so I made some porridge cookies, and these came out so much better than last week's porridge cookies. And of course, as usual, they didn't last very long at all. I do not have any footage of dinner for this night, so sorry, I must have forgotten to record it. The next morning, I got up and had a smoothie again. And for lunch, I had leftovers. This is what we had made for dinner the night before. So we made frittata, and I had some of this lentil sauce that was left over and beetroot dip on top. For dinner, I just defrosted one of our pasta sauces and had that with pasta and cheese on top. And then, of course, I am keeping up with the bread. So I'm baking as much bread as I can to keep on top of having bread available for my family. I don't usually have much bread myself, but this next day I decided to make myself a toasted sandwich. So I've added the beetroot dip, and we're trying to use up the refrigerator pickles that we have in our fridge. We have quite a few jars left. Usually we would be running low by now, but we still have quite a few. So hopefully we will get through them before I have to make the next round of refrigerator pickles. So here's the sandwich all ready for consuming. It, of course, was beautiful. Homemade bread is the best. And for dinner, we defrosted one of my bean stew meals, and we added some of these roasted potatoes that I had frozen as well. This is the best way to use the roasted potatoes because they get some hydration in them through the stew. I've decided to just start roasting my pumpkins in halves. So this is going to be a great way to use up my pumpkins and get them cooked to make soups and all sorts. And for dessert, we had stewed fruit with a bit of yogurt on top. So here's the pumpkin that I roasted the night before, and it's really easy to peel away once it's cool and to scoop out the flesh on the inside. So the skin just gets left behind. And with this pumpkin, I wanted to make a pumpkin soup. So I'm making it in my Thermomix. I just added some walking Egyptian onions instead of standard onions. And here's the skin of a half one after I've taken all of the pulp out. So there's the pumpkin in the Thermomix. I've also added some of our homegrown carrots that were in the freezer. I've run out of my vegetable stock paste, so I'm using this vegetable powder that I have in the pantry. And here's the soup all whizzed up. And we thoroughly enjoyed eating this for lunch and for dinner this day. And the next day, we still have the fire going, as you can tell from the dogs. They love lying in front of the hot fire. And I decided to do some more baking of bread this day and to make a vegetable soup. I needed to use up 3 small cabbages that I've had for some time in the fridge. I don't usually leave things in the fridge for that long. I usually harvest and use it straight away, but I'd semi-forgotten about them. So I decided to make a soup. And so I'm using some of our carrots and zucchini. The last lot of zucchini that I've frozen from the summer and autumn harvests. And we're using the last 2 bags, maybe the last 2 bags. I'm pretty sure these are the last 2 bags of my in-laws' tomatoes. We're using some corn and, of course, bone broth. And I harvested some more turnips, so we are adding these into the soup as well. I have got so many turnips out there, so if there are any recipes that you recommend for turnips, I love roasting them and eating them that way, but I'm the only one who enjoys eating them like that. So I wouldn't mind having a few other recipes that perhaps my family will enjoy eating. I'm just adding some water to the soup and some stock powder to the soup as well. And then I'm putting salt and pepper, of course. And then I'm popping the bone broth in. Everything just goes in together. And then what I'm going to do is scoop out these pumpkins and pop it straight into the soup. And I was hoping that it would melt down a bit, but there were some chunky parts in the soup. So next time I think I will mash it up with a fork to get it to melt down so that we have a bit of a pumpkin soup base to the vegetable soup. So here's everything in the soup. And you can see those chunky bits of pumpkin, they didn't really melt down like I thought they would. Here's my next pumpkin that I'm going to roast. So I'm just going to continue this because I can use the puree or like the flesh of the pumpkin for all sorts of things like scones, which I've made before. And I've got a few other recipes, some loaves and things that I'd like to give a go. There's even a pumpkin muesli bar that I want to try. And I was just taking out more loaves of bread, and here is the soup that we had for lunch. It was really nice. And I was expecting guests this day, so I decided to make a bit of a slice, a raw slice. And I used some dates, hazelnuts and almonds and cashews as well to make the base of this slice. The next time I made this, I added some coconut oil, which helps bind it all together. And we get our dates in bulk, like we do with most things. And I just slowly take it out of this box here. It does take a little bit of work to get it out, and I usually fill up a container that we can have in the pantry because the box lives up high. So here's the dry mix. And as I said, I did add coconut oil to this base the next time I made this slice. And I'm melting down some chocolate with some coconut oil to put on top. I was hoping that the coconut oil and chocolate would drift down through the cracks and hopefully bind everything underneath together. And it did a little bit on the edges of this slice, but it didn't do it in other areas. So we did end up with quite a bit of dry mix that was loose in this baking tray. So yeah, as I said, next time I put some oil in to bind the nuts and the dates together a bit more. I've had this coconut pulp sitting in the freezer for quite some time. I made coconut milk a while ago, so I decided to make a smoothie with it. However, my youngest daughter wanted a smoothie as well, and while it was defrosting, I decided to just make her a smoothie without the pulp in it, because I know the pulp is not the best texture. It doesn't really whiz down to a liquidy state. It sort of leaves some grittiness in there. So I made her a kale, banana, pineapple smoothie. And she devoured these 2 jars pretty quickly. And this 1 cup I drank while I was cooking. So here we are. I've got the coconut pulp in this next lot, and as you can see, it's splashing all over the place because there are bits of coconut in there. For dinner, I wanted to get some more veggies into us, and I haven't made this tuna rice salad for a while. So I put some of our frozen carrots in, some corn and some peas to steam, and I cooked up some brown rice on the stove as well. Meanwhile, I had boiled some eggs. Now, my last video, one of you mentioned to crack the bottoms of the eggs and then the shells will just slide off. And you were correct. I did just that, and there was only one egg that had a slight crack in the side of it because it came that way from the hens, so it didn't turn out all that well, but all the other eggs were just perfect. So I'm toasting some almonds and cashews to go in this salad. So you have brown rice, you add olive oil and either tamari or soy sauce. And the juice of one lemon. This lemon is from my parents' house, so they're now getting lemons off their lemon tree, which is very exciting. So here are the toasted cashews and almonds, and I just mix those in. This is a really lovely salad, and it's actually a whole meal. So in go the vegetables, and I've put some salt and pepper on top. Now, I didn't have room in this bowl. There was quite a lot of food. So I split it up and put some in a container. And I usually add a lot of fresh herbs into this salad. So I added as much parsley as I could pick outside. And then we put a jar of tuna in. So I get the tuna with the oil. I've mentioned this before and I haven't used the oil, but I will show you next week how I use the oil that's left over from the can of tuna. So I just mix it up all together, and this really is just a meal in itself. Having that salad, you've got your protein, your carb, and all those veggies and the good fats from the nuts. So we thoroughly enjoyed that for dinner. And here's the last lot of pumpkins that I roasted in the oven, and I'm just scooping them out. This pumpkin was so orange inside. It was amazing. So I've just popped that into a container, and then I decided to roast another pumpkin. This one was much paler than the last one, but it tasted okay all the same. I ended up using this one in some scones recently. So here is our dinner: boiled eggs with this brown rice salad. On the next day, I finally delved into my broad beans that I had shelled and frozen last spring, and I decided to make some broad bean burgers, which I absolutely love. I put a whole heap of parsley into these burgers as well. So I cooked those up on the stove. I will put the recipe link down in the description box. And I had harvested some Brussels sprouts, which I roasted. So we had some leftovers of that salad I made the night before. We had the broad bean burgers, we had Brussels sprouts, and my youngest daughter wanted to fry up some eggs. So we ended up having eggs with this dish as well. We're getting quite a lot of eggs now, which is really, really lovely. So we each were able to have 1 or 2 eggs with dinner. And then, of course, we had the slice for dessert. And this night was family movie night, so we got to enjoy that while we watched our movie. The next morning, I actually had this for breakfast. I had some of the broad bean burgers and the Brussels sprouts for breakfast, and it was delicious. And then I had similar for lunch as well. And for dinner, I got another one of the bean stew out with the roasted potatoes. And we had harvested a lot of produce out of our garden. We harvested more turnips. We harvested some amazing carrots, which you will see in another video of mine. So I decided to make another lot of vegetable soup. My youngest daughter actually chopped everything up for me. So you will see that next week. Thank you so much for watching, my friends. I'll see you again in my next video.